From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
One thing is for certain, we're in challenging times, but another thing is for certain that we've taken strong and decisive action. The Federal Reserve has moved quickly to bring order to the financial markets.
Bush defends the Fed's bailout of Bear Stearns, the nation's fifth largest investment bank. We'll speak with the former investment banker at Bear Stearns. Then China cracks down on anti-government protests in Tibet. We'll get the latest. And as the U.S. occupation of Iraq enters its sixth year, we'll speak with an Iraqi-American about his two countries. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. More than 200 people were arrested Wednesday in dozens of protests nationwide to mark the fifth anniversary of the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. In San Francisco, at least 140 protesters were jailed, many of them in front of the offices of Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein. In Washington, 32 people were arrested after they tried to block an entrance to the IRS.
I'm here because I want the IRS to know that I don't support this war, and I do pay taxes. It's disappointing.
Also in the nation's capital, protesters blocked traffic at a busy downtown intersection. Others marched from Arlington Cemetery wearing white death masks, bearing the names of people killed in Iraq and Afghanistan. More than 100 members of Veterans for Peace also held a march denouncing the Iraq occupation.
I'm out here today as a veteran of the Vietnam War to do what I can to help the American people know that we're no longer fighting just wars. We're fighting wars for political and economic profit.
I have no other choice but to be here today and march in solidarity with my brothers and sisters, the veterans, active duty service members, resistors, protesting the start of an illegal war 5 years ago today.
Here in New York, around 30 members of the Granny Peace Brigade held a knit-in in Times Square. The protesters said they would knit items for amputee veterans and Iraqi families.
The knitting is also symbolic, that we will keep knitting until this war is over. It's a symbol of our determination to end this war.
5 people were also arrested in Boston after they lay on the ground blocking access to a military recruitment center in Chicopee, Massachusetts. 8 people were arrested blocking the entrance to Westover Air Force Base. In a statement, the group said they were arrested for the same action when the Iraq invasion began 5 years ago. Other cities hosting actions included Cincinnati, where protesters set up a 2-mile display of 4,000 T-shirts meant to symbolize the number of U.S. troops killed in Iraq. At the Pentagon, President Bush dismissed criticism of the war, saying the U.S. occupation has brought undeniable success in Iraq.
There's an understandable debate over whether the war was worth fighting, whether the fight is worth winning, and whether we can win it. The answers are clear to me. Removing Saddam Hussein from power was the right decision, and this is a fight America can and must win.
Bush's approval rating is at 31%, a 40-point drop since the eve of the Iraq invasion. In Iraq, Baghdad resident Abu Abdullah dismissed Bush's self-praise.
Whatever Bush says, he does not care about the interests of the Iraqi people or the interest of the Arab and Islamic world. He only cares about the interest of America. They are only looking for oil wells and bases for them in the world. If you ask me about what Bush wants, I will say that he wants to destroy Iraq and the Arab and Islamic world.
A recent survey found more than 2/3 of Iraqis believe U.S.-led coalition forces should leave Iraq. A quarter of those surveyed said they'd lost a family member to murder since the war began. Meanwhile, a new CNN poll shows 2/3 of Americans oppose the war, while more than 7 out of 10 believe it's hurt the economy. In an interview with ABC's Good Morning America, Vice President Dick Cheney said public opinion is of little concern.
On the security front, I think there's a general consensus that we've made major progress, that the surge has worked. That's been a major success.
2/3 of Americans say it's not worth fighting.
So?
So? You don't care what the American people think?
No, I think you cannot be blown off course by the fluctuations in the public opinion polls.
Cheney spent the war's 5th anniversary in Oman, where he went fishing on the Sultan of Oman's 60-foot royal yacht. Cheney is now in Afghanistan as he continues a Middle East tour. The 5th anniversary made the Iraq War a rare topic on the campaign trail Wednesday. In North Carolina, Senator Barack Obama said his opposition to attacking Iraq from the outset puts him in better position to challenge Republican candidate John McCain.
The way to win a debate with John McCain is not to talk, act, and vote like him on national security, because then we all lose. The way to win that debate and to keep America safe is to offer a clear contrast. And that's what I will do when I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. Because since before this war in Iraq, I've made different judgments. I have a different vision, and I will offer a clean break from the failed policies and politics of the past.
In Detroit, Senator Hillary Clinton touted her plan to begin withdrawing troops from Iraq. Clinton said Iraqis should take responsibility now that the U.S. has given them, quote, the precious gift of freedom.
I have been outlining plans as to what we can and must do to begin bringing our sons and daughters home. I am convinced that we can start within 60 days and do it in a responsible and careful manner, recognizing that the Iraqi government has to take responsibility for its own future, that we have given them the precious gift of freedom, and it is up to them to decide whether or not they will use it. But we cannot win their civil war.
Both Clinton and Obama's withdrawal plans would leave tens of thousands of U.S. troops and contractors in Iraq. China has acknowledged anti-government protests in Tibet have spread to other provinces. The unrest broke out last week when Buddhist monks took to the streets of the capital Lhasa to mark the anniversary of the 1959 uprising against Chinese rule. Human rights groups say dozens of people have been killed and hundreds arrested in the Chinese crackdown. On Wednesday, a monk in Lhasa said Tibetans are prepared to rise up.
Our first
demand is for the Dalai Lama to return to Tibet, and that is the hope of all of us. That is why we are ordering these protests and demonstrations. We demand the total independence of Tibet, freedom, equality, peace, and happiness. That is what we are demanding. Many of our people have been killed, and that is why our people are in revolt.
And a correction on yesterday's headlines when we said the Dalai Lama said he's prepared to step down as Tibet's spiritual leader. In fact, he said if the violence continues, he's prepared to step down as the political leader. We'll have more on Tibet later in the broadcast. In Afghanistan, witnesses are speaking out about the latest deadly U.S. attack on Afghan civilians. 6 family members were killed Wednesday when U.S. forces raided a southeastern village.
Americans have killed them during the night. The victims have not committed any crime. The Americans killed them inside their room.
American helicopters dropped soldiers off. The soldiers entered the house and killed anyone they found. They have martyred 3 members of one family, including a child. A woman is wounded. In the second house, a kid and the kid's father have been martyred.
2 of the dead were children, no more than 10 years old. Witnesses say they bore bullet wounds to the head and chest. The attack came one day after Afghan lawmakers said 30 people, including civilians, were killed in a NATO airstrike on Helmand province. The report has not been independently verified. New allegations of abuses at U.S. prisons abroad. An upcoming expose in the New Yorker magazine says prisoners at Iraq's Abu Ghraib prison were submerged in garbage cans filled with icy water and held naked under cold showers and near freezing temperatures until going into shock. Sergeant Val Davis told the New Yorker magazine some prisoners were starved prior to being interrogated. Sergeant Davis also says he suspected prisoners were being cremated at the prison after witnessing an incinerator containing human bones. Another soldier, Sabrina Harmon, said the U.S. had imprisoned women and children at Abu Ghraib, including one child as young as 10 years old. Harmon gained notoriety for appearing in a photograph posing over the body of a prisoner she now says she believed was tortured to death. Meanwhile, at Guantanamo Bay,